Hi, I'm Elizabeth Noyce, and you're listening to Supergirl Radio.
McGurk! I love typing.
Not mess with my Google Docs, Meeksy. Supergirl Radio is going live every night of the week. How do you like it? Is becoming a human burrito a plus or a minus? I don't know. It does seem snug.
I mean, they say you are what you eat.
Kira. I love that.
So I do a podcast called Supergirl Radio, and one of our segments is Lena Luthor, Boardroom or Ballroom, because
she looks like a boss in this coat.
Nasty Luthor like a different Luthor? It's not just Lena being mean?
No.
Helen Slater here. So fun to know that you're hosting a podcast called Supergirl Radio.
Yes! Welcome to Supergirl Radio, your source for all things related to the CW Supergirl TV series and the character of Kara Zor-El. My name is Rebecca Johnson.
I'm working Glennon.
And as you can see by what we're wearing, if you're watching the live stream, if you're listening to this on the audio podcast, you might have to either check out the live stream.
You missed out with my high side pony.
Or you'll just have to imagine in your head that we have tried to do our best to recreate the 80s and what we're appearing in for the live stream. So we're doing that because we are live and wired on YouTube and Facebook to discuss and review the Jon Hughes classic film, Pretty in Pink. We've been doing some seasonal reviews for Christmas the last couple of years, so we thought we'd do one for Valentine's Day.
Why
this
not
year.
Valentine's Day? We asked
Why
ourselves.
not? There is a classic film that stars Duckie Lex Luthor. We talk about Duckie Lex Luthor
origin,
on the podcast.
The origin, if you will, of Duckie Lex Luthor.
So since we talk about Duckie Lex Luthor a lot, we thought we would just go ahead and actually watch the film and talk about it. And so if you're watching live and you're in the chat and you want to talk about Pretty in Pink, please share your thoughts. This is actually it has a controversy in this film. There's quite the controversy about the ending. About the ending.
The ending.
Yes.
I can't wait to get to that.
So this live chat might get little topical, little heated, maybe, depending on which side of the love triangle you side on. So we are gonna actually just kind of do a little bit of a different thing here, but this does have a Supergirl tie here. Because Jon Cryer stars as Duckie in Pretty in Pink, and he, for many seasons of Supergirl, was Lex Luthor. So it does have a Supergirl tie, so that's how we justify things like this.
I would argue that this is Jon Cryer's iconic role, Duckie here in Pretty in Pink. A lot of other people would probably argue against me because he's done a lot of other things. But for me, Duckie's really it. So I'm glad we got to revisit this iconic role of his.
Yes. So he's actually one of the standouts, I would argue, in this film. So we will definitely be talking about him and Duckie as well. So I guess we'll just go ahead and get started because depending on our thoughts and the controversy that we're going to discuss, we probably should just go ahead and get started because we might go long talking about this movie. Okay, so here is the description of Pretty in Pink from IMDb.com. Quote, a poor girl must choose between the affections of dating her childhood sweetheart or a rich but sensitive playboy, unquote. Morgan, do you think that's a pretty accurate description of the film?
I don't think that. And here's why. Spoiler alerts if you haven't seen Pretty in Pink.
We're going into full spoiler.
We're going to tell you all about the movie. But honestly, if you haven't, I think that's kind of on you. It's been like 30 years. So... but I feel like at no point was she conflicted about whether or not she wanted to be with Blaine or Duckie. She wanted to be with Blaine. Sometimes he was a little iffy on her, and Duckie was just sort of this weird guy who drove past her house a lot. who she was like, I love you as a friend. And he's like, I'm hearing that you love me. And she's like, as a friend is a very big part of that sentence. And he's like, cool. So I'll just sit outside your window and kind of watch you sleep. And she's like, please don't do that. He's like, got it, 10-4. And that's
He
how I would
basically
describe it.
he asked her dad for her hand in marriage at one point.
Right? I was like, listen, I think you might want to just convince her to go out on one date with you, or like not actively ignore you in every public setting. That's step one, Duckie. Duckie, my God, that's step one.
Yeah, so we will talk about that. I thought it was strange that I mean, I think sensitive is a good way to describe Duckie, but a playboy? I don't know. I mean,
Yeah, I didn't get I didn't get the impression that Blaine was a playboy, mostly because we didn't see him with like
no, I think it's talking about Duckie as a playboy.
Duckie is a playboy. I don't think so.
No, I'm reading it wrong. The childhood sweetheart is Duckie. And the
Yes.
rich but sensitive playboy
I-
is
I
Blaine. I
think-
read that completely wrong.
I think there's a lot of things in this one sentence description that are incorrect. I think she's not conflicted, not even a little bit. I wouldn't describe Duckie as her childhood sweetheart. He's just some guy she knows that she cannot get rid of.
And
then
calls her like every 10 minutes and leaves a voice.
And then Blaine, I wouldn't describe him as a rich but sensitive playboy because he only seems to be interacting with her in any capacity.
Mhm.
And we don't really see him with other girls. I don't know if they like mentally combined him and James Spader and was like basically the same character.
Yeah, so I did want to respond to something in the chat before we get really digging deep into these characters. Obi's girl says that's some pair of glasses, and I just wanted to explain that, let's see, which side is it? I think it's this side. This is actually green right here in reality. But with a green screen behind me, it has blended in with my background. So if that if that's something you noticed, that's what it is. So I just wanted to clarify that.
I thought she just found like a pair of pink sunglasses that she was wearing, and I was like, "Oh, totally far out, man. One half is dark pink, and the other half is light pink." And then she's like, "Actually, they're green. I don't know what's happening."
I wanted to get some Duckie sunglasses.
Those would be amazing.
But I couldn't find any, so I settled for the super 80s pair.
The closest I could get to the 80s was this glitter blazer that for some reason I own. I was looking through my closet like 10 minutes ago. Like, there's got to be something that's going to pump up this outfit 80s wise. I've got the pink. I've got the earrings.
Mhm.
The earrings are very 80s.
Yeah.
I was like, but what else? And then I was like, wait, is that sequence on that jacket? I think I've got it.
Well, it looks like something Andy would wear, so I appreciate the wardrobe choice.
That was the thought process.
So that might be a good segue to actually dig into the Andy character played by Molly Ringwald. So I guess we'll just kind of go down the characters and say what we think about them and the actors who portrayed them. So Morgan, I guess we'll start with Andy because she is the lead of Pretty in Pink. What do you think about Andy and her character journey in the film?
Yeah, I liked Andy. I love Molly Ringwald. I'm a sucker for the Molly Ringwald period of cinema, if you will, where Molly Ringwald was just in every single movie, and you were just like, that Molly Ringwald, and then she just kind of disappeared.
Yeah.
But there was a period where like you could not go to see a movie without Molly Ringwald suddenly being in it. And this is, I think, one of her big ones. Like this one, Breakfast Club, and 16 Candles, I think, which I think are all John Hughes movies.
All John Hughes, yeah.
So he was like she was like his muse, if you will. But I thought I liked Andy. I thought that she had an interesting like character progression in the movie. I thought the stuff with her family was really interesting. The stuff with her dad and her mom who left them both, and her dad who kind of sank into a depression and like couldn't get a job, like couldn't really motivate himself to get up because he missed the mom, despite the fact that she had left them like 3 years prior. And I sympathized with her because she had, she was going to a school with like a lot of rich kids, but she wasn't rich, and so she had to deal with all the snotty rich kids, and was kind of embarrassed that she was just sort of a more poor person. And so I thought that Andy was interesting. Now Andy's fashion was also great. Top-notch 80s stuff. It's like, could the outfit be baggy so it just kind of looks like I just grabbed a burlap sack, but also have about 10 things over top of it so that you know that I have like a lot of accessories. Like every outfit, there was at least like 10 pieces to the outfit, as if she was getting ready to play strip poker. Yes. So at the end of the movie, spoiler alert, she gets these 2 different dresses, one from her friend and one from her dad. And she's like, because I'm a fashion gal. That's what I do. I fashion. I'm going to take these 2 dresses, which by themselves were fine, normal looking dresses, and I'm going to create something so weird that everyone's going to stop and stare when I walk in. And like, what I appreciate about this dress is that I believe a 16-year-old made it. No part of me is like, that girl couldn't have made that. No, that girl definitely made that. Like the lace that comes all the way up to the collar, some of that lace looks like it's literally kind of coming up a little bit, like it's fighting her. It's made out of like satin, but it's also baggy somehow. The seams don't look like they quite lay right. I believe that Molly Ringwald like made this dress herself, like between takes.
Yeah, that is the premise of the movie, that she is always coming up with different outfits, and she has quite the taste. But she's doing it. It's done in character because she isn't very wealthy, and so she has to find things from thrift stores and whatever she can find, and she just kind of makes her own kind of fashion because she can't afford some of the fancier things. So I think that's in character for Andy. I'm trying to see what else, what other outfit that I have of her here. But it's quite the eclectic taste that she has. But she does what she can as a girl from literally the other side of the tracks. I think she did pretty well with what she had.
She's like, I'm going to get a dress. It's going to be really baggy. Over top of that dress, I'm going to put a lace vest. Why a lace vest? I don't know. On top of that lace vest, I'm going to have like some sort of cravat around my neck. Why is that there? I don't know. And like, she's like, and the fingerless gloves really tie it all together. Do they, Andy?
Yeah, I thought the dress, and I had to take the glasses off. They were about to make me have a headache. Not very easy to wear underneath headphones. But yeah, I thought the dress that her friend Iona had was great. Like,
Yeah.
why didn't she just wear that?
Well, when they get to the prom, I was like, dear God, all of the prom dresses in this are insane looking, insane. And Mike goes, no, there's got to be one normal one in there. And I was like, good, let's Where's Waldo it. You find me one normal looking dress in that prom scene. And I don't think he would like, people like, how about that one? I was like, I mean, that's teetering on semi-normal, but like, look at how big the sleeves are. So this movie is like, sometimes you'll watch stuff from the 80s and you'll go, okay, the fashion is a little dated, but like I understand like some of that stuff I could see people wearing today. And this is one of those movies where you're like, what were people on in the 80s? Like, did everyone dress like that? That's insane. That's an insane way to dress.
They did, I think, for the
I
most
think so too. Please, let's layer more stuff on top of other stuff.
Molly Ringwald was actually a pretty big influencer. I realized today she was on the cover of Time magazine at one point. I was like,
oh my
gosh.
God, really?
So yeah, you can look that up for yourself. Molly Ringwald, Time magazine cover. So if she wore that, that might have set some trends in the culture.
I bet that the year that movie came out, there were a lot of girls in like ill-fitting like silk dresses that came up to their necks, kind of like they were like vampires who couldn't sew. I think she started like a whole trend of, I bet like there was a bunch of people who showed up in like pink dresses that looked somewhat like that. And now they're like looking through their photos going, why?
Yeah, but I did like Andy as a character. I felt a lot of compassion for her, and I felt very connected to her. What she was going through. I think she was written pretty well in terms of having a character journey and having traits that went along with her character that carried her all the way through. I think the scene that really stands out to me in terms of Andy and Molly Ringwald's performance is when she goes out with Blaine for the first time. It's on their first date. He's already come by, tracks the record store, and they've had a little conversation, and he asks her out, and she decides to go out with him, even though she knows he's rich, but he doesn't really know seemingly much about her. And there's a scene where he wants to drive her home, and she's like really adamant, like, I don't want you to take me home. I don't want you to take me home. I don't want you to know where I live. And that was really affecting to me because she was so embarrassed about where she lived and that he was going to judge her for that. And for a movie that was kind of quirky because of the time period, what I love the 80s though.
They're so great.
I'm an 80s child, so I have an affection for the 80s. But I, for a movie that was kind of, funny in a lot of places, there were a lot of good dramatic scenes, I thought, in the movie, and that was one of them that I thought Molly Ringwald really showed off some acting skills there. So I thought she did a pretty good job.
Yeah, I think that was one of my favorite scenes from her in this movie that didn't involve her dad, was her like freaking out about Blaine seeing her house and being embarrassed that she was poor and he was rich. And I also had to remember like the time period in the 80s was like, that was very much the time when like it was cool. It was really cool to be preppy. And you wanted to have like all the right designer clothes, and it was like the sort of the preppy greed is good period of time where like, I mean, it's always been the case that like like people look up to the rich, right? But like in the 80s, they were like explicit about it. It was like, it's good if you're rich. So I mean, I think, during that time period, it would have been even harder to be like a poor kid, especially at a rich school like that, where all the rich kids seemed like they were honestly just terrible people.
They really were.
Just the worst.
And there's also a moment that is, I thought, some decent writing. I mean, it's not like mind-blowingly good writing, but I thought it was a good use of it, was when Andy and Duckie are driving through this neighborhood and they see a house, this really nice big house, and Andy says, that's my favorite one, and I would really like to go in there. I bet the people who live there wouldn't, value it as much as I would. And that's the house that she goes into with Blaine for that party that gets a little uncomfortable. But it's just interesting to me that she wanted to go in there, and when she realistically got in there, she wanted to leave. So I thought that was a nice little play on that.
Yeah, I also thought that it was really interesting that they that the first date was interesting, and by interesting I mean that was probably one of the worst first dates ever.
Why would he take her there?
Why would he take her? He's like, hey, girl that I like, that already my friend has been really rude about. I want to take you with all of my friends who I know are terrible. I'm aware that they're terrible, obviously. Obviously, I know that they're terrible. I'm going to take you to this party that you already told me I don't think I really want to go to. It's going to be cool. And then, like, when they go into the bedroom, because it's a terrible party, and so he gets a bunch of snacks, and he's like, we'll just hang out. And they walk in, and James Spader's there, and he's like, hi, welcome to the Spader sex den. It's going to be weird in here. And instead of leaving like normal people, they're just like, they're pulled to like the gravitational power of Spader. It's like you can't get away once his laser beams get on you. And then they're just sitting in a corner while him and his girlfriend are canoodling, and his girlfriend's like, I hate you. And then they're just still there. And
why wouldn't you just get up and leave?
It's like, my God, make it end.
You don't have to be there. You could choose
don't
to
have
leave.
to be there.
Yeah, it was not a great first date. Lots of things happened. Well, I guess it ended well.
It did.
Yeah, so I guess
Eventually.
I guess there is that. It was a long road to get there.
I saw what the movie was trying to do, which was like they're like Romeo and Juliet. His friends don't like her, and her friends don't like him. And I was
Right.
like, part of these are this is not a quite a one-to-one comparison, though, is it, movie? Is it? Because Duckie is just being rude. And sort of the punks are just like, what are you doing here? But like nobody is like picking on him at the bar that they go to eventually, except Duckie, who like, come on, it's Duckie, like just
Yeah.
take it.
He lost it a little bit. One thing I wanted to ask you, because it was something that I was thinking about when I was watching the movie. I had seen Pretty in Pink a long, long time ago. So it had been a while for me. So this was rewatching it for Supergirl Radio actually gave me a chance to revisit it and think about it in a different way. And since you mentioned the mom, Andy's mom had left a couple of years earlier and it's just her and her dad, it made me start to think, and I like to ask this question every time I watch a movie or a TV show or even read a book when I ever read books. I asked the question why. And I was trying to think why would you have Andy's mother gone? Why do that? Because you could have told the same story with Andy's mom there.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. I don't know. I'm not sure why they had Andy's mom like not in the picture. I wonder if it's like to make her feel like she's even more removed from all the rich kids and like the high school, drama, like these like nuclear families that are all over the place, and her family is kind of falling apart a little bit. Her mom's left, and maybe just make her feel even more alienated. This idea of like her mom left and she doesn't really have anyone to talk to. I'd also argue maybe it's that she doesn't have anyone to talk to about these like boy problems that she's having, and so she has to talk to her boss from work, or her, even her dad. She kind of talks to her dad a lot. I was like, honestly, just you need one female friend that's not your boss.
That's why she. Oh well, yeah, she has Iona, but that's
Maybe
kind of it.
like one female friend who is a same age, somebody else in high school, perhaps. Like she can't talk to Duckie about it because he's just going to call her every 5 minutes, every hour on the hour anyway.
Yeah, I was kind of thinking about it in terms of, and I don't think this was intentional in the writing, because the ending was changed while they were shooting it. So I don't think this was totally intended, but I was sort of seeing it as something about unrequited love is what I was trying to
Yes, I
connect
think
the
you're
dots.
probably closer, because they do talk a lot about like he says, I know that I should give up on her, but I still love her.
Yeah, and it sounded like she left him, and he was struggling with that. Are we having a feline friend?
Oh yeah, Bunson's head
Oh.
was fully in the garbage. So
Oh,
like just rooting around in there, little paws, seeing if he could find something good for himself. Little late night snack for Bunsen. Trying to like get out of the garbage.
let us know if we need to take an emergency break.
I think we're good. We've resolved the garbage situation.
Yeah, so I don't know. I was thinking about it in terms of that, because Duckie has a very unrequited love, and he seems to bond with Andy's father. But I don't know if that was intended, because the original ending, and I guess we're sort of getting ahead. Maybe we can save the controversy for later in the discussion. But the original ending had Andy ending up with Duckie. So that wouldn't have been intentional, I think, to talk about Duckie in terms of unrequited love.
Yeah, I mean, I think it works in the version of the movie that we have here, but I don't know that it would have worked in the original conception of the movie. And also, I can't wait to talk about that, because, yeah, like I think that's always been my complaint about the movie is like, and then but him still? At the end of
Okay,
it?
so maybe we should just get into it, because I think we both want to discuss this, and
I
maybe
think
we
so.
could talk. Maybe we could talk about Blaine and Duckie here as well. We can kind of combine the two topics of conversation. So, Morgan, when you're watching Pretty in Pink, are you rooting for someone in this love triangle, this high school love triangle, or what are your feelings about
You
it?
know what? I feel like I am rooting for Duckie, and I understand that I should not be, right? Because because that kid's a stalker straight out. That kid
straight up.
That kid's straight out a stalker. You should not call anyone that many times. He calls her in one scene and he's like, it's 6:20. Where are you? And then she's like listening to her messages. That's a thing that kids we used to do back then. You left a message on the
answering machine.
Answering machine. And then you would like hope that somebody that you liked called you back and you would hear the voicemail. But so she's listening to all the like the messages on the answering machine and he's like, hey, you didn't answer. It's 6:20. Hey, it's 6:25. You still haven't answered. You okay? It's 6:30. If I don't hear from you, I'm just going to come over. No, not answering, not hearing from her is your answer, Duckie. And then he like drives his bike by her house all the time just to see if she's there. Duckie, no. Duckie, no.
He also follows her around in one scene when Andy goes to visit with Iona to talk about the dresses and Blaine and all that kind of stuff. He's standing outside Iona's place.
Yeah.
And I'm sure she didn't know. I mean, I don't think Andy knew that he was there.
No, she definitely didn't. Like, he's full scale stalking her. Also, I think just to give you an impression of like how not conflicted she is about this decision, like one of the first scenes is her at this like bar, which I assume that she gets into with a fake ID that they just let her into because she's always there with her like her boss, her older boss. But Duckie can never get into this bar. Like they never let Duckie into the bar. They're just not feeling the Duck Man. And and also they know he's not old enough. And so he's got a relationship. She does this so often that he has a relationship with the bouncer. And the bouncer is like, what do you think it means that she comes here all the time and she knows you cannot get in? And you know what it means? She just wants a few moments of freedom from you, Duckie, because you are a stalker.
So in that case, since we have established his stalkery tendencies, what makes you sort of want to pull for him in the movie?
I don't know. I don't. God bless him. Maybe it's Jon Cryer is just that charismatic because if you give me just like a sheet of what he did in the movie, I'd be like, my God, get away. That man's going to murder you. But yet somehow when I'm watching the movie, I'm like, oh, do you want to just take a chance on Duckie? Just take a chance on that man outside your window. Listen, don't take it. If you have a Duckie in your life, don't take a chance on him. Believe me, don't do it. He's too into you.
Even if he does a great like musical rendition where you work and he comes in and lip syncs and dances around. It's not great.
Was he what was he lip syncing? Like Tenderness, I think. It was so good. I feel like that's like one of the like iconic scenes from Pretty in Pink.
Yeah, the internet is kind of slow for some reason. But yeah, it was Otis Redding.
That's what.
So
yeah.
there was that, and I think that was chosen by both the director and the and Jon Cryer.
Yeah, and I think
can you hear me, Morgan?
Oh, I can hear you. Can you hear
me? I
me?
feel like we're kind of coming in and out.
Uh-oh.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah,
I think we're now a little bit behind. The internet is lagging.
Oh no, really? I feel like this is Duckie's fault somehow.
it might correct itself. If it gets worse, we'll try to maybe restart and leave and come back and see if it fixes it. But yeah, I mean, there are instances in the movie that make me want to cheer for Duckie. One of them was him singing and dancing in Trax, the record store. And another instance, what was confusing to me is that they do all of this stuff with Blaine. And at the end of the movie, Blaine and Andy have a big fight. Andy goes to the prom by herself. She wants to show that, these rich kids, these richies can't break her. And she shows up by her at the prom. He's at the top of the stairs and he's going to take her to prom. And that's a moment where I'm like, if you don't want her to end up with him, you don't do that kind of thing. That's a little misleading.
Yeah, I know. It felt like the movie was leading us in one direction and then just did like an about face right at the end. I don't think it helps that like Andy and Duckie, for all of the weird stalkery tendencies that he had, they had like a real relationship. Like they were actually friends. She gave him rides places. They got along. They studied together and things like that. She seemed like she was mostly he was just kind of a gentle annoyance in her life, but she she was like kind of putting up with it, like they had a friendship. Whereas I don't think that the movie ever really sold what her and Blaine were connecting on in any way. Like what did they talk about when they weren't just staring at James Spader with his shirt off? Like what was that conversation? What did they have in common exactly, besides both being pretty and liking very 80s fashion? Like I just don't. She was like, I like that you're rich because secretly I kind of want to be rich. And he's like, you're a person that's sitting in front of me in the computer lab. I don't really. He does this whole speech to James Spader about like how Andy is so different and Andy is this and Andy is that. And I was like, and your interactions with her have led you to believe that. How?
It's funny to me because when I previously watched Pretty in Pink, I was on Team Duckie because I think of the ending and how I felt like Duckie was wronged. But this time around, I watched it and I was like, no, why did I ever think that? Why would I be cheering for Duckie? Because there's actually more romantic things with Andy and Blaine, specifically that scene where they're in the library in their little computer lab.
Oh, the computer thing was so cute.
It's cute. It's really cute and romantic. And I don't know how he accomplished that, though. He must be a really good programmer.
I was like, how did he do that in the 80s? Like, even just getting the photo up on the screen was like, how? Witchcraft?
I guess when you're rich, you can do kind of anything you want to in the 80s on a computer. But those kinds of moments won me over this time with Blaine. So I don't know. It was strange. It was a strange feeling for me to watch it this time and be like, actually, I was on Team Blaine this time. So it was very strange. But what do you think about Andrew McCarthy? We haven't really talked about him much. We've talked about Blaine a little bit. But what did you think about his performance?
I thought Andrew McCarthy was good. I thought like all of the actors in this movie were good. I feel like he wasn't given a whole lot of anything with Blaine. Like Blaine was just sort of the like unreachable rich guy who was handsome and had like a nice car and seemed like he was nice. And that's about all we got. Like he was also very easily swayed. Like James Spader would just like slither up to him. Like James Spader would just appear like out of a bush or something. He'd be like, hey.
With his shirt open all the time.
With his shirt open. He would just like start unbuttoning as he spoke to you. Like, James Spader, my God. Your sexual energy is off-putting.
That shirt has buttons for a reason.
My God, James Spader. But he would like, his Blaine's friend, whose I think name was like Steph or something. Steph. Like Steph would come up and say one thing, and like it would just throw poor Blaine into a tailspin. Like, are you like that easily thrown off by James Spader? It felt like a little strange. Like there wasn't a lot to I wish there was like more to his character. Like it felt like they might be hinting at some stuff with his family, but it was only hinting. Like they never really dove any deeper than that. So I was left with like, wow, this guy can't seemingly like make up his own mind. He has to ask Spader like, what's up?
And Steph wasn't even that great of a friend. I don't know why they were friends. I guess they maybe bonded over being rich, but I was like, he's a terrible friend. Why are you hanging out with him?
Exactly. It's like a classic. I feel like it's a classic like TV and movie trope where it's like the nice one and then the mean, the mean friend, the mean popular friend. And like it always makes me question like, well then look, what do they have in common that they're such good friends? If Blaine's like, I'm just kind of like a normal chill guy, and this is my best friend, like Count Dracula. It's like what do you and the Count have in common exactly? Like makes me side eye the nice one, because I'm like, okay, but you didn't notice that he's awful? Like he's never not awful.
Well, I will give credit to James Spader. He had great hair.
Oh my God, it was amazing.
Great
It
80s
was
hair.
like it's so good. James Spader just has this strange energy that he seems to bring to every single thing that I've ever seen him in. And it's like if you just let James Spader go, James Spader, the energy of him will just eat your entire production. You have to rein in Spader. And it kind of happens here where it's like even the description writer couldn't really remember Blaine and was only probably remembering James Spader. She's like, yeah, I think that guy was a playboy because the only one I remember is the one with his shirt open all the time. It's like poor Andrew McCarthy's like trying to give it like a normal grounded performance, and James Spader just like slides in with his shirt all open, just being creepy to every single person, just like, hey, what's up? It's like, what? Spader, calm down.
Donna in the chat says if you want to watch a creepy James Spader performance, watch Mannequin with Andrew McCarthy and Kim Cattrall featuring Estelle Getty. Also another great 80s movie, Mannequin.
Such a good one.
A mannequin comes to life.
Yes, where the mannequin comes to life. The 80s were also a great decade for Spader, I will say.
Yes, it was a great Spader
A lot
decade.
of like movies where like suddenly like James Spader, like, oh, James Spader is in this, and then it's like, oh, James Spader, what are you doing in this? Just sidling up to somebody.
Yeah, and Claudia CM Gutierrez 74 says best Blaine scene when Andy was giving him the business at the lockers when he had to renege on his prom invitation. Man, his controlled crying and public embarrassment was on point. Yeah, that's also a very good scene.
So I actually have a question about the prom thing because I was watching, but maybe I looked at my phone or something. I have the attention span of a gnat anymore. We all do. Smartphones are the culprit. But I was like, I feel like I missed something. So like he asks her out. They seem like they have a good time. Then he has a conversation with his good friend James Spader. No buttons on his shirts. And James Spader is just like, she's beneath you, man. And then in like the next scene, he's ghosting her. And I was like, is that all it took for him to decide to not talk to her?
It seems like it. He makes the excuse that he had gotten in trouble when he took her to like the rich people's club or something that his family belonged to. But yeah, it seemed like it was just because Steph was badgering him. So
That's
I don't know.
I think Steph makes a comment about his family, which made me think like, oh, we're gonna get into like his family dynamics, and like that's why he's like changing it, like because his parents' opinion or something means a lot to him. No, it's just Spader is mean, but it's like also Spader has been mean this entire. He's not even particularly mean about Andy. He's mean about everyone. Like. Why would you listen to anything Spader says?
I don't even think he likes himself very much. So
I don't think he does.
Steph has some real problems.
Let's really dig into whatever's going on. This is the problem with Spader. He's taking over the movie.
Well, there is one actor who is kind of a big part of the cast we haven't talked about yet, and that is Iona. So what did you think about Annie Potts in this movie, Pretty in Pink?
I thought Annie Potts was great. I loved Iona. Her crazy hair, her weird dating life that's just sort of going on in the background of this movie that we're just getting strange snippets of while she's talking on the phone. I love that scene with her and Andy where she gives Andy her prom dress and she gets into her prom dress and it has the big bouffant, like the giant beehive hairstyle, which made me go like, oh my God, yeah, she would have had that hairstyle because this movie is what, 85, 86?
Yeah, something around there.
And her character is probably, in her 30s, so like her prom would have been maybe 15 years before, so like late 60s, early 70s, and that was like crazy for me to think, oh, okay, yeah, no, I guess this like mid-30s woman would have had her prom in the 60s. I was like, oh God, time. What is time? But I like that we kind of see how the styles have changed so dramatically since she's been in high school, which was, she's not that old, so it wasn't that long ago. And when she was in high school, they all wore like the dresses with the crinoline, and they all had the beehive hairdos and the big fake lashes. And now Andy's in whatever weird new wave thing she decides to cobble for herself out of scraps of fabric. But yeah, no, I thought that the Iona character was really great. I thought she was one of the more fun like side characters besides Duckie in this movie.
Yeah, I was thinking about her character progression because she started off. I think the first time we see her is with the crazy hair, like this sort of spiky hair at tracks, and she transitions into different looks all throughout the film. And by the end of it, she is she says that she referring to herself that she looks like a mom, that she gets to the point where she's a little more grown up. She's dating this guy who works at the pet store or owns the pet store or something. And so I was wondering if that was somehow tied to Andy's character and some of the character progression she went through. I don't know, because I was seeing similarities about Andy and Iona both working at the record store, not wanting to be at the record store for the rest of their lives and having all these relationship issues. So I didn't know. I can't pinpoint what exactly that says in terms of comparison to Andy, but I thought that was really interesting that they were sort of following that same path.
Did you see how he stalked his way up here too?
Yes.
Hi, Beaker. Hey, buddy. What's up? No, you just gonna sit. Okay. I swear to God, if you knock it over.
Is that the ring light?
You knock over that ring light, buddy. Hey, Beaks. You can only see the light. He's just staring into that's not even good for your eyes.
Yeah,
pal.
that's probably not good for the eyes.
He's just staring. So my ring light has a mirror in the middle of it.
Oh, so he can see
staring
himself.
at himself in the mirror. He's so vain. I bet he thinks this live stream is about him.
Yeah, it is. I mean, really. I'm going to stop putting overlays up because I'm missing the lab cat action.
I don't know how long I'm just gonna ride it out. Let's see how long. No, not across the keyboard. Not across the keyboard, buddy. Okay. What a night.
Yeah, so I was just wondering if you saw any parallels to Iona and Andy in Pretty in Pink.
Yeah, I was also kind of struggling with don't knock it over on your way out. I was also kind of struggling with like, is it supposed to be like a parallel story there? I don't really get that. I don't really know. I mean, I do think that like her ending up kind of looking a little bit less punk rock at the end when she ends up with the pet store guy. I don't know. Maybe that's like, kind of like Andy picking the more conventional suitor for herself too. She picks Blaine instead of Duckie, who, wears big oversized coats and goes to prom looking like Dracula.
Yeah, so I just wanted to put that out there because I was trying to follow those characters and kind of the comparison there. Okay, so let's actually talk about the controversial ending. So originally in the script and as they were in production, they were shooting it with the ending that Andy was going to end up with Duckie. They even shot this scene where Duckie and Andy are dancing. But from what I understand, Molly Ringwald got really sick. Like they were spinning and spinning and spinning, and she got really sick, and like it just became a kind of a disaster. I've also heard that Molly Ringwald, as you correctly pointed out, thought that Andy was not interested in Duckie as a suitor. She considered him like a little brother or like a best friend or something like that, but not in a romantic way. And so she didn't think that was the right ending. She maybe should have said that before they started shooting. But I don't think she found it until at the end when she got sick shooting that scene. And so I think she requested the rewrite.
Oh.
And so then they brought all the actors back to shoot it, and they reshot it where Blaine was by himself at the prom, and they reconnected, and Andy ends up with Blaine. If you look closely at Andrew McCarthy at the end, he's wearing a wig. Apparently he had shaved his head after they had shot the original original production. And so they had to put a wig on him, and his hair definitely looks a little different, but he's wearing a wig in that scene where they kind of reconnect at the prom. So, I don't know. I think there's a lot of different opinions, I guess, on which it should have gone. My opinion is that if they were going to stick to something, they should have stuck it out. Rewriting things last minute like that is never good. I think they kind of made it work, but it's still awkward because Andy and Duckie hold hands at the prom, and it's just like, what am I trying to get at? What am I supposed to get out of this? So, it's got a lot of mixed messages in it, but
Yeah.
but
So
that's the way
I
it went.
found I did a quick Google and I found an article on a site called Fatherly. That's an interview with director Howard Deutsch or
I
Dutch,
think
I guess.
Deutsch maybe.
Deutsch maybe. And so they said, let's discuss the ending. Did you want to see Andy with Duckie or Blaine? And did the film you'd made after until the ending was reshot tip your hand as to who you were rooting for? And so he says the original ending was Duckie gets the girl. That was what the script was and what I was executing. When we showed it to the audience, they rejected it. They wanted her to get the cute boy. She won it. To them, forget the politics. It was she wants the cute boy. She wants Andrew. We had to figure out a way to change the entire structure so that it worked.
Yeah,
So,
Donna says something similar in the chat, saying I heard test audiences didn't like the original ending. Yeah, there's that, but I've also heard that Molly Ringwald did not like the Duckie thing. So
interesting.
So there's two sides of that. I guess it's who do you believe?
It also kind of feels like, well, they could have made that Duckie ending work by just having her into him even the slightest bit. Instead, he's literally like an annoyance that she has to deal with. She's
a couple of times she has to like shoo him away.
She has to shoo him away.
He shows up at her job and makes the alarm go off, and she's like, "Get out of here!"
I love Duckie. Probably because Jon Cryer is great and he brings a lot of energy to the role. But Duckie is annoying.
Yes.
Duckie is a lot. And I think they could have fixed that by just having her have any amount of like, oh, maybe I like him, or oh, maybe I've overlooked Duckie and he's been there for me all along. But the movie never has that at all. She likes him as a friend. She kind of puts up with him constantly stalking her, but she's never romantically interested in Duckie. And so I could understand why test audiences are like, and then she just ends up with this guy she's been annoyed with for like the whole movie.
Yeah, there's one scene where Duckie is over at her house studying, and he's I think he's singing, maybe he's talking about Andy to himself, and then I think he starts singing and sort of serenades the dog, and she can hear him through the the air conditioning vent or whatever that was. That would have been a moment where Andy could have had some sort of realization about Duckie's feelings for her, and that could have changed the course of their relationship. But she's just kind of laughing about it and nothing happens. So there were opportunities for her to have some sort of realization, but she never does. So
yeah,
I agree.
Yeah. It feels like the movie was like leading up to like, oh, like the guy for her has been there all along and she's been kind of ignoring him, and like he accepts her just the way that she is. And then at the last minute it's like, but she's not really into him. So off we go to Blaine. It's like, it feels like the ending, it makes sense to me just because she was never into Duckie. But like thematically, I don't know that it makes a lot of sense. It's like, but actually she's gonna go for the guy who broke up with her because James Spader was like recommended it one scene ago, and then he just changed his mind again.
I think the filmmaker and even Jon Cryer, I watched an interview with him because I bought the Duckie edition of Pretty in Pink.
Nice.
It's everything's Duckie edition.
Yes.
Yeah, I actually have an overlay for that. I wondered what it was. I don't know if it's any different from the
everything's Duckie.
I don't think it's different from any other versions of Pretty in Pink. I think they probably just slapped a different label on the front of it. But what was I even talking about before I mentioned the
Oh,
Ducky edition?
when you were watching the Ducky edition.
Oh, the interviews that they had on the special features. Jon Cryer talked about how maybe it was best for Andy, the rewrite for Andy to end up with Blaine, because otherwise the message you're sending at the end of that movie, if she ends up with Ducky, is that the poor people can't have a relationship with the rich folks of the school.
That's
So
true.
so
That's
if
true.
you don't if you have her just ending up with Ducky, then it sort of sends out this message that she was never good enough.
I'm going to be controversial and
Okay,
say,
hot take.
hot take. I feel like given the choices, maybe she should have ended up with nobody. Like maybe the ending of the movie should have just been like her having a fun time with her friend Ducky at prom. No romance. She just has a good time. She's wearing that dress she made herself. Everybody's like, "What a dress!" And she's like, "I know." And she dances with Ducky. Blaine apologizes, and she's like, "Thank you for your apology." And then she just dances away from him. And then that's it. That's all. She crushed prom. She don't need no man.
I personally think that's a good ending, but the studio people want to have a romance there to sell. But yeah, no, I think that's a perfectly acceptable alternative solution to the problem, because the issue with the rewrite is then it sort of makes Ducky pointless in a way. Because if it's just all about Andy and Blaine's relationship, you don't even need Ducky there, really.
It's Ducky is like the guy who's super into her, who is like her childhood friend, who she really relies on to like be there for her, but like is very clear that it's only ever as a friend. If they wanted to play up a love triangle aspect to the movie, they needed to have her like him even a little bit. And
Yeah.
she never does. She
Yeah.
never likes him romantically, even for a second in that movie. Like, even when they hold hands at the prom, it's like how you hold hands with a friend. There's no romantic, there's nothing romantic happening there. She's like, "Oh, Ducky, I should have known you were here, you old scoundrel."
Fun trivia, the shot of them holding hands, that's not even Jon Cryer.
No,
Not
really?
his hand. It's like some older gentleman holding her hand.
That's too funny. That's too
Yeah.
funny. I do like that, like, Ducky somehow randomly had more chemistry with her boss, who he tries to make Andy jealous, and so he kisses her boss Iona, and Iona's like, "Oh my god." Ooh. That Ducky.
Do you recognize the young lady at the prom that Ducky sort of connects with at the very end?
I did, in fact. I screamed, "Oh my god, it's Buffy." Because when Andy goes off to get her happy ending, you're like a little sad for the Duck Man. It's like he's just dressed like Dracula for no reason now in the middle of that prom. And then he turns around, and who does he find dressed like Dracula? Buffy the Vampire Slayer. And I was like, it's kismet.
I mean, maybe he got an upgrade. I feel like
He
she
might
seemed
have.
into him.
She was feeling the Duck Man versus Andy, who was just like, "You are a piece of scenery to me. You are like the wallpaper."
Yeah, Christy Swanson is I think they in the credits refer to her as Duckette.
Yes, I saw that. Because I screamed, "Oh my god, it's Christy Swanson. I think that's Christy Swanson." And Mike was like, "I don't know." So when the credits came up, we had to look, and it said Duckette Christy Swanson, and I was like, I was right.
Yeah, John Hughes really liked Christy Swanson. She also appears in Ferris Bueller's Day Off in a very famous moment when the teacher is calling roll and everybody's wondering where Ferris is. And she's like, I saw my friend's sister's cousin or whatever saw him at 31 Flavors last night. That whole speech. That's Christy Swanson in Ferris Bueller's Day Off. And she actually, I went to Dragon Con many, many years ago and went to a panel where Christy Swanson was there, and somebody had her asked if she could still recite that speech, and she nailed it. She
Oh my God,
nailed it
that's so
perfectly.
funny.
And it was, as somebody who loves Ferris Bueller's Day Off, that's probably like a top 5 movie for me. And I was like, this is the greatest thing. in the history of Dragon Con. That's like one of my favorite moments, is being in that room when Kirsty Swanson recited that speech. But yeah, so it's kind of fun. She doesn't say anything, but she's just there making googly eyes at
She just smiles.
Duckie.
She's like, oh, look at that. Look at that handsome young Dracula. What I didn't realize is, like, right before we started recording, I was like, man, John Hughes, like, Pretty in Pink and Breakfast Club, the things that he's sort of like famous for. What else did he write in? What else? Like, what other movies was he involved in?
He's
Did he write or direct?
He was a prolific screenwriter.
It turns out he wrote every movie in the 80s. Every movie. I was like,
read
he
him
wrote
out.
that one. Okay, here's just the tip of his filmography. National Lampoons. He wrote all of them, like the Vacation, the Christmas Vacation, the European Vacation.
So good.
So good. 16 Candles, which we know, Breakfast Club, Weird Science, Ferris Bueller's Day Off, Some Kind of Wonderful, Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. He did She's Having a Baby, Uncle Buck. Here's some big ones. He did all the Home Alones. I don't think I knew that.
I didn't know that either.
He wrote something called Curly Sue. He wrote the Beethoven
Something
movie.
called Curly Sue.
I haven't seen Curly Sue since I was like a child. I vaguely remember it, but it's only we'll have to do our Curly Sue.
Can we tie Curly Sue to Supergirl?
Apparently, he wrote the movie Beethoven. Do you remember Beethoven with the big dog?
I remember Beethoven.
I've been told I've been told from off screen that I need to clarify that IMDb says that he wrote that as Edmond Dantes.
As a pen name.
Are you happy, Mike? He's very happy. He did all the Home Alones. He did Dennis the Menace, all the Beethovens, again as Edmond Dantes. He did the 94 Miracle on 34th Street, 101 Dalmatians, Flubber. I mean,
classic film, Flubber.
This guy wrote like every movie in the 80s, it feels like. I was like, Ferris Bueller and Weird Science? What?
Yeah. He was probably I would say probably more well known for his writing, but he also did direct films.
He did, yeah.
Trying to see the list of his films.
He directed less than he wrote. IMDb has him down for a director of 8 of those movies. So 2 of them are the big ones that 3 of them, I guess, are the big ones that we know. So 16 Candles, Breakfast Club, and Ferris Bueller's Day Off. But he also directed Weird Science, Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, She's Having a Baby, Uncle Buck, and Curly Sue.
Yeah, and Donna wants to clarify that he wrote the Robin Williams Flubber, not the original Flubber. We don't want to mischaracterize the Flubber.
The Flubberverse.
Credits. Yeah, so John Hughes is probably one of my favorite directors because a lot of those films are, like I said, Ferris Bueller's Day Off is one of my favorites, and Planes, Trains, and Automobiles is such a classic.
I feel like I have to. So Mike is off screen, just doing the most right here in this podcast episode because
he's being a little Duckie right now.
He's being such a Duckie right now. He sent me from off screen. He sent me a GChat with a link because Edmond Dantes, which was John Hughes's like pen name on a couple of those movies, is actually the title character and the protagonist of Andre Dumas's adventure novel, The Count of Monte Cristo. So the more you know there, right?
I would never have known that. Tell Mike, thank you for sharing. Can he be a fact checker on all of our live streams?
I wish. We're like, sorry, I'm hearing from Mike that's incorrect.
We might need to fill that position. So funny. Yeah, it's one of those things where I looked John Hughes up the other day and I was like, oh my gosh, he did Home Alone. I didn't realize that. I just kind of somehow that passed me by, but it makes so much sense. The way some of those films are written so well.
Yeah, I know. When right before this stream, when I looked through the list, I was like, wow, this is like hit after hit after hit from the 80s, like Weird Science, Ferris Bueller, like Home Alone, like just the Home Alones alone, right? Like you write a couple Home Alones and I'm retiring there. Like Ferris Bueller, goodbye. I'm done.
Yeah, I would have like called it a day after Ferris Bueller's Day Off. That's the pinnacle for me. But yeah, I probably would have stopped John Hughes after the first Home Alone. He didn't really need more than one.
I liked number 2. I don't know that. I think number 3 exists, but I don't remember anything about it.
A fourth. Is there a fourth
Oh
one?
no, I think there might be.
And then they remade it. Which
I just saw like a Disney Plus series of like Home Alone, and I was like, okay.
Why? So yeah, no, but the first one is such a great film. One of the best films ever made, in my opinion. But yeah, so John Hughes was a writer, just a screenwriter on this one. He did not direct Pretty in Pink, but it sounds like from the Duckie edition that I watched, he had a lot of input on music that they used and the casting of Molly Ringwald and some of those things. So he did have a lot of input, even though he wasn't directing it. The man, Howie Deutsch, I think, who directed the film, this was actually his debut as a filmmaker. So this was his first. He had done some music videos, I think, as a director, but he had never done a feature film. So this was a big undertaking for him. And it sounds like from the audio commentary, he relied pretty heavily on the cinematographer for certain things. So like the shot of Andy and Blaine kissing in front of the car with the headlights on.
Yeah.
That was all the cinematographer.
Oh, wow. Because that's a great shot.
It's a great shot. It's probably one of the best ones in the film. So kudos to that guy.
He was like, listen, this is my first thing. I'm going to listen to you, cinematographer. You know what you're up to. And cinematographer's like, yes, my moment.
Yeah. I mean, maybe he should have gotten a director credit.
I mean, they should have just looped him in.
Yeah. And now I feel like I need to look him up and actually say his name, because now I feel like I need to give that guy credit. I had never heard of him in any other film. Let's see if I can find that information. Oh, that's going to take a while to look through that. I'll see if I can find it, though. What was his name? Tak Fujimoto was the cinematographer on Pretty in Pink, who was so good, and I think helped out Howie Deutsch a lot. This guy has a lot of credits to his name, too. He did Ferris Bueller's Day Off. Let's see. I'm trying to see if he did any other John Hughes movies. He did Silence of the Lambs, Gladiator, Philadelphia.
Wow.
The Sixth Sense, The Replacements, The Manchurian Candidate. Yeah, so he knew what he was doing when he did Pretty in Pink.
He was pretty aware.
Yeah, so I did like that shot with the headlights, and apparently the director sort of was like, I don't think we should do that. That's not going to look right. And Fujimoto was like,
trust me,
I've got this. This is going to be great. So so it was really interesting. There's a lot of things behind the scenes that were very interesting. The controversial rewrite of the ending, somebody's first film. So it was quite interesting on the production side of things. Well, I guess before we get into some maybe Boardroom or Ballroom, if you want to do that. So
perhaps
I guess before we get, well, I don't know, should we do overall thoughts before or after Boardroom or Ballroom?
I think we could do them before. Okay,
all right. So, what are your overall thoughts about Pretty in Pink, Morgan? What did you get out of watching this film?
I just like Pretty in Pink. I like I like the 80s John Hughes movies. I'm just kind of a sucker for them. And I just enjoy this one. I think it's just like a fun high school kind of movie, like kind of tale. Do the romances in this one grab me? No, they don't. But I think it's a really fun, like, sort of coming of age movie for Molly Ringwald's character in this one. And I think that like all the actors do a good job, and it's a very 80s story of like the poor girl and the rich guy. Like, I feel like there are like about 50 movies in the 80s that were just that concept. And as one of those movies, I think it does a good job. I think Jon Cryer is great in it as Duckie. I think he takes a part that in like somebody else's hands would be like, get a restraining order. and, and he makes you almost root for Duckie, like to get the girl. Like you almost want Duckie and Andy to get together, and then you're like, and then that time that he called her every 5 minutes, no girl, no. But I think that he did a really good job at like making that character lovable and making you sympathize or empathize with him at the very least, even though he is deeply irritating. And I thought that the guest, like the whole cast, so like Andrew McCarthy and James Spader and whoever was Annie Potts, that's right. I thought everybody was really good all the way down, and like the fashion was insane, so that was always just really fun to watch. And I thought that the music was good, like nice fun 80s music. And so I just really enjoyed this one. I also appreciate that, like, unlike like 90% of the movies now, this one was like a tight hour and a half. Like we got in,
too long.
we got out. There didn't have to be like 3 hours of Pretty in Pink. Like it knew the story it was telling was like a tight 90 minutes, and it told it, and I'm good with that.
Yeah, I can understand why this film is considered such a classic from the 80s. It's not my favorite John Hughes movie. I would probably actually kind of put it on the bottom tier John Hughes movie. But I think there are some really standout performances from Molly Ringwald and Jon Cryer, especially, really stand out and make those characters stand the test of time. We're in 2022 talking about it and still analyzing it and looking at the film. And I do think Annie Potts is great in this. She's great in everything she does. So this is a great film to watch. I would recommend it. But I'm not like over the moon crazy about it. I do like the 80s aesthetic in it, the wardrobe, the music, the record shop. I mean, those really don't
shop, yeah.
Those don't really exist anymore. So
I know, yeah.
It's cool to see, and be reminded of when those things did exist.
And I like that it really went like, for me, I'm like, oh, what a period piece, right? But like that was just like what life was like then. Like I'm like, oh, they went really hard on the 80s. Yeah, they were in the 80s. That's why. But like I like that, you have the preppies, and then you have like the new wave people, like the punks, and like that was really starting to like become a trend. You even hear like there's a band I think that plays at the bar that they like to go to that sounded like the beginnings of what would eventually be ska. I was like, oh my god, this sounds like a little bit like ska. Oh, the 90s. I just felt a cold chill down my spine. I was like, the 90s, my childhood. So I really like that they, for them, they went all in on being like contemporary, and for us it's like they went all in on the 80s of it all. And I think that makes, when you're watching it, and it's kind of a straightforward story, but that makes it more enjoyable watching it like years later in 2022. You're like, oh man, this movie was like so 80s.
Yeah, I like movies that are set in a specific time period and were of that time. That's why I like watching, classic films from the 30s and 40s, because I can learn things about that time period, because I wasn't alive then, but I can learn about, oh, what did elevators look like then?
Oh, yeah,
what was the fashion?
Across.
Yeah. So that I like that about those movies, and so I get to revisit some of those things from the 80s that maybe were a little older than me. Just in terms of like I wasn't, I was probably too young to hang out in the Tracks record shop, but to be able to see things that I would recognize as the 80s is kind of enjoyable, because I get to revisit that time period and that history and that decade. So I enjoy it for that. It's not my favorite, but there's some good things about it. All right, so I think we need to, before we get out of here, we need to talk about the quote volcanic ensembles. That's how they refer to some of Andy's wardrobe choices in the film. So I think we need
It's how I would refer to them too. They were volcanic.
So let's take a look at those and do kind of a Duckie and maybe an Iona a boardroom or ballroom.
And now, Lena Luthor, boardroom or ballroom.
All right, so let's maybe talk about some of Duckie's outfits that we did not talk about. We mentioned his prom suit, but
Kind of looked like he was the Phantom of the Opera.
yeah. So he did like what are those kinds of ties called?
Like the bolo ties?
The bolo ties, that's what it is.
He's just like whispering to her, "Sing to me, my angel of music." Honestly, Phantom of the Opera is a real Duckie vibe in general, so I think that he would he would be on board.
I can see the parallels. But since we've already kind of talked about the prom attire, let's talk about his more casual look when he goes to the Trax record store to do his musical number for Andy and Iona. So what did you think about this outfit?
Well, he's got like the flock of seagulls hair, which is always pretty amazing. Like it comes up high and then it dips down low.
It's almost like an old pompadour.
It's like it's like a new wave pompadour that he's sporting. Like if you gave him a different outfit and you put him in like the middle of the streets and he started snapping, he's in West Side Story now. Like he's a jet all the way. But what I appreciate about this outfit, and I'm going to tell you, is that how many layers this outfit has. It's like Inception. This outfit, there's so many layers deep. He's got like a button down shirt with like a vest. It looks like maybe a vest over it with like a jacket over that, and then but none of the patterns would make sense together. None of those things would you see and go, oh, this thing goes with that thing. No. Not at all. It's just all clashing patterns. He's like, I don't care if I match. That's not what Duckie's about.
I also like that he has a lot of jewelry on his wrists. It looks like he's got a watch, but also a bracelet and some rings. So
he's got those little Duckie glasses where they're just like the round John Lennon glasses, but they're sunglasses.
Yes. I like that he has his own style. I don't know that everything makes sense.
No.
But I appreciate that he's got his own look. Kind of like Andy, he has his own style. And I guess it's maybe speaking more towards the less affluent kids in the schools, that they kind of had to just create their looks. And he seemed to be kind of I would say Duckie is more in tune with what the 80s are.
Yeah, like
than maybe anybody in the movie.
I agree. I think like the maximalism of all of his outfits. It's like, why wear one shirt when you can wear 5? Should those 5 shirts match? Nah, not for me, bro. His jacket even appears to have like some sort of pin on it. Like there's a lot going on. Like you're right. He has jewelry on. He's got rings on. He's got like bracelets on. He's doing the most here.
He's got a lot going on. And the other outfits I wanted to kind of take a look at with Duckie, there were 2 other ones that I thought were really standouts. So one of them is when he goes to the record store and he sets off I don't know if he sets off the alarm accidentally or if he does it intentionally to get Andy's attention. Probably more that one. But he has a hat on with a jacket that looks like it has some sort of military, maybe something or other on the sleeve. I can't quite determine what that look is going for, but it's kind of in the same vein as the other one with the John Lennon glasses, the sunglasses and the rings and all. But do you have any thoughts on that one?
Yeah, he's really committed to those sunglasses, and God bless him. He should. They're a little weird, but they somehow work for him. I like the everyone's commitment to like large, oversized suit jackets that don't quite fit them. That I guess was like a big look in the 80s. Is it ill-fitting? Yes. Okay, I must have it. I also like that like his little hat seems to have like, like when you see like the old-timey press and they've got the hat and then they've got the little like ticket in the hat and they're
Yes.
like, "Yes, that's he looks like an old-timey like press like reporter out on the scene."
Yeah, he looks like an investigative reporter out
And
getting
then
the scoop.
yeah, and then in this but like an investigative reporter from like the 40s.
Yes.
And then his second outfit is serving me a lot of like stylish grandpa. Uh, he's got on like it's like like long shorts with like suspenders. He's got on a pair of sneakers with socks, like big socks that go all the way up his his calf. This is truly like a top-notch grandpa outfit, and he's I think if he continues dressing like that, he can just continue right into his own 80s.
Are those Converse, like, Converse All-Star shoes? I don't
They
know,
look
sorta look
like
like it.
Converse. Yeah, they look like he's, like, wearing Converse. I'm also okay, I don't he's wearing shorts, but he's also wearing and I don't think I'm exaggerating, like, 4 levels of sock. So, is it hot or cold on this day? His feet must be sweltering. He's got, like, brown socks over top of white socks over top of what looks like maybe black socks? I'm not sure.
I also like that it looks like he has suspenders connecting his shorts.
Yes.
Well, maybe he doesn't have the right kind of like the size of shorts. Maybe his shorts are too big. I don't know, but why the suspenders with the shorts?
Like his jacket, his shorts are also too large.
Yeah, so that is quite the look. That's the look he decides to wear when he asks for Andy's hand in marriage
I feel
in a
like I would've
conversation with with her father.
I feel like I would have gone for a different look, but maybe he was going for like, "Listen, I'm no threat. I look like a grandpa." And like as a strategy, maybe that's not the worst. Maybe her dad was like, "This kindly old man looks like he'd really take care of my daughter."
Yeah, so there is that. And I guess before we get out of boardroom or ballroom, I guess we could talk. Do you have any favorite look of Iona's that you wanted to talk about?
I mean, every look of Iona's is pure magic. In the we first see her hair is standing straight up as if she had been electrocuted by like sticking her finger in a light socket. And then she's wearing like a white t-shirt, but over top of that, she's wearing a leather dress. Why? I don't know. I don't know, but I love it. Good for her. Like she is working it. Then later on, she has like a series of wigs. Why? I don't know. She just likes wigs. She's got like a wig with like a blonde wig with bangs, and then later on she puts on the beehive wig to kind of like recreate her own prom experience. But she's got on a pair of big like fuzzy slippers. I think I feel like I like the outfit. I think this is the one with the like the little hat and like the hair bun that they when they go to the
Yeah,
bar.
she's looking very 1940s. I think that might be the time period.
Yeah, it's like a bringing like 40s vibes, but it's still very, very 80s. Like she's wearing like a weird like black I don't know, like a tunic that's got some like asymmetrical like different shapes on it. It's like 80s down below and then up top it gets into like a 40s glam moment and like but with maybe like a a lady net and it's yeah, I think it's a good look. I think it's Scream is very 80s to me. She's like really committed to what she's doing there.
Yeah, I like the idea that we can see the change in her character through her wardrobe and her various looks. She's trying to find herself. And I guess in the end she does. I don't know. I mean, I don't know if she's happy in the end with she seems happy with the pet shop guy.
Yeah, she seems to like the pet shop guy. I don't love her like 80s mom outfit. It's very stuffy and I feel like the same woman who wore her hair straight up in a leather dress maybe wouldn't uh love that like 80s mom alpha like vibes long term. But I think, for the moment, I think she's working it. She's like, here's a blazer. It's also too big for me. So that's what I need because it's the 80s. I like the she's like proper ladies have pearls, so I'm just gonna wear like a bunch of pearls.
I think the parallel, now that I kind of think through it seems so simplistic and obvious now, but Iona is kind of at the beginning sort of dating these deadbeats who have no job, or they're no good, they're not good boyfriends, and then she finds this guy who owns his own pet store, and he's a wealthy guy. And so I think the parallel there is between Andy and Blaine, and trying to figure out who you are. Do you fit in with that lifestyle, that kind of thing. And I'm like,
Yeah.
that seems pretty obvious, Rebecca. Why didn't you connect that
I
earlier?
didn't connect it either. I was like, I don't know about her love life. It just made me giggle through most of the movie. But I think that's a really good point about, like, she found somebody who was actually more interested in her, and not just sort of like these deadbeat guys that she was talking to earlier on the phone and like throughout the rest of the movie.
But is Iona trying to fit in with him? But
That's
it's
what
not
I
like
felt.
who she is.
That's what I felt. I was like, I don't know. Like, just because you're dating a nice guy who likes you, who runs a pet shop, doesn't mean you have to dress like like an 80s mom. Like, I feel like you could still have she could still have her wacky style, and also like a nice guy who treats her well. I don't know, 80s movie. I don't know what message you're trying to send. That part of the movie kind of felt like at the end of Grease, when she's like I'll dress like you like to dress, and he's like, I dress like you wanted to dress. It's like, I don't know, could you either of you guys have like your own personality?
Yeah, I think Iona's struggle is the same struggle that Andy goes through, trying to fit in with the Richies and trying to still maintain her own personality and her own fashion sense. So I think that's maybe, I don't know, that's kind of what I take away from it. All right, well, thank you for helping us go through all those various volcanic ensembles, and I guess that will wrap up Boardroom or Ballroom. This has been
Lena Luthor, Boardroom or Ballroom.
Okay, before we completely wrap up the live stream itself, we do have some snap judgments that we came up with, but also some that we've been seeing in the chat. So I think
Nice.
I think we need to make some snap judgments about
I
Pretty in
think
Pink.
so.
In the game of snap judgments, each person is presented with 2 options, but must only choose one. First instincts are recommended and explanations are unnecessary.
Okay, so we have quite a few snap judgments. We have a couple from us, so let's start with our own snap judgments. So our first snap judgment is, would you rather go to the Richie party or the dive bar with Andrew Dice Clay as the bouncer?
This is a tough one because I hate bars that are so smoky that it would probably give me a headache. If I'm around too much smoke like that, I would get a headache. But I would not want to go to the Richie party. That's too much party for me. So I guess I would fit in more with the people who just kind of want to go hang and listen to some music. So I think I would probably go to the dive bar.
Yeah, I think I'm going to the dive bar because that bar seemed fun. Besides that was before the indoor smoking ban. So you're right about
It was so smoky.
how smoky it was. So that would be hard. I would probably cough a lot. That secondhand smoke, not great for you. But other than that, it seems like it's not like a club bar. It's like more of a hang bar. I feel like the people were pretty chill. Like, even with Blaine there in his little like polo collared shirts, they were like, oh, what's this guy doing here? All right, party on. Whereas the rich people would just be like, you're not wearing a designer outfit. So like there was just too much attitude there.
I can't face the judgment at the Richie party.
No, I can't do it. Okay. Would you rather drive Andy's pink Volkswagen Carmen Gia coupe or ride Duckie's bike?
I think I would pick the coupe. I like riding bikes, but I think I'm gonna go Andy's pink coupe here.
Oh, I actually really like the pink coupe. As soon as they like showed it in the movie, I was like, "Ooh, that's nice." I love a good pink car because it's not a car color you see all that often. And it wasn't like too pink. It was just pink enough. It was the right amount of pink. It was a little beat up. I would, but it was still running. It still seemed to be running well. And like, unlike Duckie's bike, like I don't need to particularly stalk anybody or quietly drive past their house, so I'm okay with just with just the pink coupe.
He could pop a wheelie and stand on the seat, so he was pretty good on that bike.
He knew what he was doing on that bike because he is stalking a lot. He's a champion stalker.
Yeah, I tried to look up more information about the car. Some people said it was from 1958. Some people said it was 1959. So it's at least late 50s. So I think it's cool that Andy had a classic car that she was driving around as a high schooler. I don't know if that made her popular or unpopular, but I think it's a pretty neat car.
I think it's cool that she had that. I assume, based on what we know about that character, that it wasn't like a purposeful choice. Like, oh, my car's gonna be vintage. It was probably like the broken down car.
It's like
that
the
she
only
could
car
afford.
she could get. Yeah.
Okay.
Like, I will take it in pink.
I'll take it. It has to be pink because of the name of the movie. Okay, so we have some snap judgments from Nicole. So Nicole's first snap judgment is more cringeworthy version of Jon Cryer in Love, Duckie not so gently stalking Andy, or Lex Luthor pining over Nixley.
More cringeworthy version.
More cringeworthy. You know what? I'm gonna jump in here first. I think it was Lex Luthor because like at least Duckie has the excuse of being like 16 or 17 years old. It's like he's just he really likes this girl and he's liked her his whole life. What's Lex's excuse? Like why does he have to be so cringeworthy about it? Why is he writing poetry in his little dream journal or whatever it is? Like no. I got more of the cringe, I think, from Lex pining over Nixley. I feel like maybe Duckie's gonna grow out of the stalking.
Here's the thing about Lex and Nixley. Lex didn't really pine over Nixley because in the future they were together. So
That's
she
true.
did return. I'm gonna go the opposite direction.
Ooh,
I'm going to disagree because Nixley actually at some point in the future did return the feelings for Lex Luthor. Unlike Duckie and Andy, Andy was not really giving him the time of day. So I think it's more cringy or cringier to watch Duckie try to pine or stalk Andy.
Fair. That's fair. That's a good point. All right. So our next Nicole snap judgment is Andy from Pretty in Pink and Lena Luthor swap closets for an evening.
Ooh.
Who is able to put together the more gala-worthy outfit? I mean, I think it's Andy. I think she's got a lot of good material in there. I don't think
she would have all of Lena's wardrobe.
Lena doesn't have a lot of good material in the Andy. I feel like Lena would pay somebody to sew her something reasonable out of like Andy's many volumes of like scarves and vests over billowing dresses, like prairie dresses. But I don't know that she's got a lot of good raw material to work with. So I think Andy's going to like knock it out of the park and Lena's going to be in trouble.
Yeah, I don't think Lena has the technical skills. Well, I mean, I guess she could figure out how to sew things and create some clothes, but I don't think Lena seems like the person who would want to do that. I think she would just want to have somebody make it for her. So I think Andy probably has that up on Lena that she's willing to kind of cut and sew.
Also, do you remember that one like it was like Lena outfit where she was like dressed like kind of like a vampire ghost, like a gothic.
Yes. A Victorian vampire.
Victorian vampire ghost. Andy would be all over that.
Oh my god, that's such an Andy outfit.
She would turn that into a whole look. Believe you me. She'd be like, I'm living my best life here. How do they know exactly what I'm into? Nicole's last snap judgment is description writer for Pretty in Pink, or Supergirl description writer Veronica to describe your life story?
Ooh.
Hmm.
I mean, this kind of depends on whether we're going like early Veronica or late Veronica. Because by the end of Supergirl, she was giving up.
Veronica had surrendered by the end, much like the rest of us.
I don't know. Veronica always tried to give it her all, though. I think for the majority of the time, she threw some good descriptions in there. So I'm gonna go Veronica.
I'm gonna go Veronica too, because I think Veronica could give me like a fun story that we then never delve into. Veronica could give me like a deep dark secret. And on this week's episode, Morgan reveals something that that Rebecca never heard before. You're like, ooh, what is it? And then it's nothing.
It doesn't matter.
Never find out. It doesn't matter. Don't worry about it. You'll never know. I like that Veronica's going to give me a little mystery, you know?
That is so true.
Okay, so our last snap judgment is from CM Gutierrez 74, who says, in middle school, my friends and I had a legit debate about which rich kid likes poor kid movie was better, Pretty in Pink or Some Kind of Wonderful.
I have a confession. I've never seen Some Kind of Wonderful.
I was about to say, I think I have the same confession in that I have also not seen Some Kind of Wonderful.
Always wanted to see it, though, because I think Leah Thompson is in it.
I think you're right. It's a 1987 film, and it does have, it's Eric Stoltz, Mary Stuart Masterson.
No, Mary Stuart Masterson.
And
Leah
Thompson.
Thompson is in it. Yeah. Okay.
And Leah Thompson. So there is a lot of good 80s talent there. I have never seen it, though.
The description on IMDb says, when Keith goes out with Amanda, the girl of his dreams, Amanda's ex-boyfriend plans to get back at Keith. Meanwhile, Keith's best friend, tomboy Watts, realizes she has feelings for Keith. So that's a big time love triangle. Eric Stoltz is looking good in the poster, though.
He is. He's like serving some face.
I gotta say, that's the best I've ever seen Eric Stoltz look.
There's something about the way that he's looking in the poster. There's like almost kind of like a dead-eyed stare, though, that is kind of off-putting the more you stare at it. I don't know if you're experiencing this as well, but like at first you're like, oh, Eric Stoltz, and then you're like, oh my God, Eric Stoltz. What do you want from me?
Is this the one? I think this is the one where somebody like lifts up a boombox or something to play some music.
No, that's Say Anything.
That's Say Anything. That's right. No, you're correct.
Also a classic.
You're correct. You're correct.
What if we just become 80s movie radio?
I would be into it. Yeah, no, you're correct. So in that case, I have no idea what Some Kind of Wonderful is about. Although I think I might give it to Some Kind of Wonderful because of the poster. Eric Stoltz in the poster.
I think I'm going to go to give it to Pretty in Pink because of Duckie Lex Luthor. My loyalty lies with Duckie for some reason.
It's unexplainable.
It's unexplainable. I would get a restraining order if this was real, but because it's not, gosh, you go Duckie edition. I'm living that Duckie edition life.
All right. Well, I guess that will do it for our snap judgments. Thank you all for submitting them in the chat. No judgments on your snap judgments. Fun fact about Eric Stoltz and Leah Thompson. I'm pretty sure, wasn't Eric Stoltz the original Marty McFly in Back to the Future?
I think you're right. I think he was. And I remember reading that somewhere.
And he played it so seriously. And they were like, you got to go. This is not working.
I'm just imagining the stare from the poster of Some Kind of Wonderful, but as Ferris Bueller, they're like, Bueller, you're such a scamp.
Oh, no. This is Marty McFly from Back to the Future.
Oh, Marty McFly. That's almost worse. Could you imagine that, like time traveling, just the stare?
He definitely took it, I think, too seriously.
He was like, I got method on this.
And from what I know, I'm sorry, this is starting to become Back to the Future Radio. But he also, from what I understand about Eric Stoltz, when he was playing Marty McFly, he saw the story as a tragedy. And not like a fun comedy, let's go back to see my parents in high school story. So Eric Stoltz is a very serious guy in the 80s.
That reminds me of like, I don't know, I haven't watched this show, but this HBO show Succession, and everybody is obsessed with it. I have yet to watch it, but they recently interviewed one of the actors, and one of the actors is like, no, like this show is totally serious, and people are like, no, it's kind of like a dark comedy. He's like, I don't think so. Like, so he's like just playing it like deadly serious, and everybody around him is like, we're in a comedy.
Okay, and this is another tangent. But on Netflix, what is that thing called? Talking about playing things so seriously. Kristen Bell is in that miniseries.
Yes, I'm on episode 7 now. It's like the woman in
the woman in the house across the street from the girl in the window. I'm on episode, I think, 5. And it's played so straight.
It's like deadly serious. You could watch it and not catch on for a while that it's like a parody, that it's like a comedy, except that like she's always pouring these like full bottles of wine into glass.
Like, that's too much wine.
My favorite running joke is like the casseroles that she brings the casserole everywhere.
You have to listen to the voiceovers really carefully. Those are the ones that make me laugh so much. You also have to pay attention to like the gags in the background. I don't know if you've noticed this, but like her daughter's headstone has changed. Like, yes.
I noticed. I was watching one of the episodes, and like the thing said like, I hope you dance like no one is watching. Yeah. I was like, wait, what?
I can't wait to see how it goes. I need to finish that up. But talking about playing something so completely seriously straight. But I think it's meant to be played like that. That's the joke of it.
That's the joke. But could you imagine like that energy, but to like Back to the Future?
Yeah. You should, if you've never done it, go look up those because they have footage of Eric Stoltz in the film.
That's amazing.
Because they shot a whole bunch of it before they decided to recast. So sometime in your free time, go look at Eric Stoltz and Back to the Future.
Well, I know that they Donna mentions it. There's a great Netflix behind the scenes series that talks about recasting him. And I think she might be, I can't remember the name of it, but there is like a Netflix series that's like the movies that made us or something like that.
That's a great little series.
I've been meaning to watch it. But I want to look up and see if they have the Back to the Future one and find out all about that.
So good. Okay, well, I guess we've gone down an 80s movie Eric
As
Stoltz tangent. There's a lot to talk about with Eric Stoltz. But I guess that's going to do it for this review of Pretty in Pink. So I hope everybody enjoyed revisiting Duckie Lex Luthor, since we do talk about him in that way quite a bit on Supergirl Radio. Now you have the full context of why we call him Duckie Lex Luthor. So it's good to actually get to talk about a movie outside of Supergirl, but it's somehow connected to Supergirl. So that's how we justify it here. All right, so I guess we will need to get to some Supergirl Radio and DC TV plugs. If you would like to contact Supergirl Radio, you can post a comment on our website at supergirlradio.com. You can email us at supergirlradio@gmail.com. If you'd like to leave us a voicemail, you can call us at 678-718-7252. You can like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter and Instagram, all at Supergirl Radio. You can listen to us on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, Google Podcasts, Radio Public, Podchaser, and Spotify, where we also have a Spotify playlist that includes music featured on and inspired by the CW's Supergirl TV series. We are listed on DC's fan page, which you can find at dccomics.com/DC-fans. If you like what we do, we encourage you to give us a rating and write us a review on Apple Podcasts. If you enjoy our Supergirl Radio live streams, make sure to subscribe to the DC TV Podcast YouTube channel and hit that notification bell to get notified when we go live and Wired. DC TV Podcast also has a TeePublic store, so if you're in need of new DC TV related t-shirts, tank tops, sweatshirts, onesies, mugs, notebooks, pillows, or stickers, go to supergirlradio.com and click on the TeePublic store link at the top of the page.
Supergirl Radio is part of the DC TV Podcast Network, so if you also like The Flash, Legends of Tomorrow, Black Lightning, Titans, Doom Patrol, Batwoman, Stargirl, Superman and Lois, and the upcoming Green Lantern, Justice League Dark, and Strange Adventure shows, and DC TV After Dark, you can subscribe to the DC TV Podcast Mega Feed on Apple Podcasts. Follow at DC TV Podcasts on Twitter, and like DC TV Podcasts on Facebook, or else. This has been a message from Hope, inhabiting the Flash Vessel, also known as New Rachel.
And speaking of the DC TV Podcast TeePublic store, we have some Duckie-related merch.
Yeah, we got Duckie t-shirts, Duckie mugs, everything for your Duckie needs. So check out the DC TV Podcast TeePublic store to purchase those items. And I see we have a question in the chat. We'll get to that real quick. Nicole asks, is the Prop Master interview next week going to be live or pre-recorded? I have questions about lab setups. That will be live. So if you want to come ask Matthew Wilson any questions, we have a lot of questions for him. He has things he wants to talk about. But if you would like to talk about the lab setups, please come and ask a question. I'm sure he would love to talk about them. All right. And as always, we would like to thank our legion of super sponsors for supporting Supergirl Radio. These people are Michael, Sam, Anne Marie, Yvonne, Quinn, Nicola, Leslie, Abby, Irmgard, Miriam, Sheree, Donna, Nicole, Lizeth, and Faith. If you would like to become a Legion of Super sponsor, go to patreon.com/supergirlradio. We have 4 tiers of monthly memberships, and we appreciate you helping us keep the lights on and supporting a Supergirl Radio. And you can find me on Instagram at The Derby Kid. I'm also on the social media platform Vero, which is where I kind of talk about what I've been watching or listening to. And so you can check me out there at Derby Kid. I also have a personal YouTube channel, youtube.com/duckmilkprod, where I do a live stream every Sunday night at 9 p.m. Eastern, where I am reading through the top critics of Rotten Tomatoes reviews, the negative reviews of Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice. I'm getting close. I think I might be close to halfway. So I'm getting through it, but it's still going to be quite the journey ahead of me. But if you want to come and hang out in the live chat and share your thoughts, we talk about film analysis and how to go through a film and maybe what not to do when you're writing a film review. So if you're interested in that, check me out over there.
And you can find me on Twitter and Instagram. I'm at Mojotastic. You can also find me as a co-host on the Legends of Tomorrow podcast, where I think we're close to a hiatus. I don't know. I think this might be the last episode of Legends for like maybe 2 weeks. But anyway, it's been a great season. We've been really enjoying it so far. So if you want to hop on board, now's the time. You might have 2 weeks to catch up. That's a great time to start listening. No, you don't have to worry about watching any previous episodes of the show or the back catalog. Just jump in right now. Season 7. You're going to be fine.
Yeah, you don't have to watch the show. You just have to listen to the podcast.
Just listen to the podcast.
Well, that sounds good. It's a great podcast. Everyone should listen to it. Well, I think that is going to do it for this episode of Supergirl Radio. But until next time, I'm still Rebecca Johnson.
And I'm still Morgan Glennon. And we hope you enjoyed another episode of Higher Education.
McGurk! I love
Not
typing.
mess with my Google Docs, Meeksy.
Supergirl Radio is going live every night of the week. How do you like it? Is becoming a human burrito a plus or a minus? I don't know. It does seem snug.
I mean, they say you are what you eat.
Kira.
I love that. So I do a podcast called Supergirl Radio, and one of our segments is Lena Luthor, Boardroom or Ballroom, because really?
She looks like a boss in this coat.
Nasty Luthor like a different Luthor? It's not just Lena being mean?
No.
Helen Slater here. So fun to know that you're hosting a podcast called Supergirl Radio.
Yeah!